The smoke still rose from the ruins of New Seoul Colony when Captain Minho Kim arrived. His boots crunched on broken glass and twisted metal as he walked through what used to be the main street. 2 million people had lived here just 3 days ago. Now there was nothing but ash and silence. Minho stopped in front of a small playground. The swings hung motionless, their chains melted by the heat of the attack. A child's toy lay in the dirt, half buried under debris. He picked it up, turned it over in his hands, then set it down carefully. His jaw tightened. Commander Hannah Park stood near the remains of the defense headquarters. She was the only officer who survived. Her uniform was torn and covered in dust. Her eyes were hollow, like she had seen too much. "They gave us no warning," Hannah said when Minho reached her. "The Velcrin ships just appeared and opened fire. We tried to communicate. We sent surrender signals. They ignored everything and kept shooting." Minho looked at the crater where the government building once stood. "How many ships?" 20 warships. They destroyed our defense fleet in 10 minutes. Then they bombed the colony for 2 hours. Every shelter, every hospital, every school. They made sure nothing survived. "Why?" Minho asked, though he already knew there was no good answer. Hannah pulled up a holographic map. "The Velcrin claimed we crossed into their territory. But look at this. New Seoul Colony is 50 light-years inside our established borders. We've had this colony for 20 years. They knew exactly where we were." Minho studied the map. The borders were clear. There was no mistake, no confusion. This was murder, pure and simple. 3 weeks later, Ambassador Ji-won Choi stood in the Galactic Council chambers. The room was enormous, designed to make anyone standing in the center feel small. Representatives from 43 different alien species sat in elevated seats, looking down at her. Ji-won wore her formal diplomatic uniform. Her black hair was pulled back tight. Her face showed no emotion, but inside, her heart pounded with rage and grief. She carried a data chip with all the evidence humanity had gathered. "Honored council members," she began, "I come before you to present evidence of an unprovoked attack on the human colony of New Seoul. 2 million civilians were killed. We ask for justice." High Arbiter Thexlin, a being made of living crystal, nodded for her to continue. Ji-won activated the holographic display. Images filled the chamber. The colony before the attack, busy with life, children playing, people working, families eating dinner together, then the attack. The Velcrin warships appearing without warning. The bombing. The fires. The screams that the audio recording captured. Bodies in the streets. Buildings collapsing. The defense fleet burning in orbit. Finally, the aftermath. The smoking ruins. The silence. The emptiness where 2 million lives used to be. "As you can see," Ji-won said, "New Seoul Colony was well within recognized human space. The attack violated every treaty and protocol. We ask that the Velcrin Empire be held accountable for this massacre." War Prince Draxus, the Velcrin representative, rose from his seat. He was tall, covered in dark scales, with eyes like a predator. "The humans misunderstand the situation. They are young and do not fully grasp the complexities of galactic borders. Our maps show different boundaries. It was an unfortunate misunderstanding." Ji-won's hands clenched. "A misunderstanding? You killed 2 million people. Calm yourself, Ambassador," High Arbiter Thexlin said. His voice echoed in the chamber. "This council will review all evidence and make a fair judgment." The council deliberated for 3 hours. Ji-won waited, watching the alien faces, trying to read their expressions. Some looked bored. Others seemed uncomfortable. None looked angry on humanity's behalf. When the council returned, High Arbiter Thexlin spoke. "We have reviewed the evidence presented by both parties. While the loss of life is regrettable, we find that the territorial dispute was genuine. The Velcrin Empire acted within their perceived rights. The human complaint is dismissed." The words hit Ji-won like a physical blow. "Dismissed? They murdered 2 million people." "The matter is closed," Thexlin said. "Humanity must accept this ruling and move forward. You are a young species. In time you will understand how galactic law works." War Prince Draxus smiled. It was not a kind smile. Ji-won looked around the chamber and saw the truth in the faces of the council members. They were not sympathetic. Some were amused. To them, humanity was nothing. Just children complaining about things they did not understand. Ji-won gathered her evidence and left the chamber. Her hands shook with fury. Outside, she contacted Earth immediately. "The council ruled against us. They don't care. They think we're weak. On Earth, in a secure room deep beneath the Seoul Defense Ministry, Fleet Admiral Taejin Lee received the message. He had expected this outcome. He had hoped to be wrong, but he had expected it. Taejin called an emergency meeting. Within hours, the most powerful people in human military gathered in the conference room. General Soman Han commanded the army. Admiral Dong Yun ran naval intelligence. Director Yoon Ji Kwon led advanced weapons research. Colonel Ji-hoon Seo controlled special operations. The council has made their position clear, Taejin said. They do not see us as equals. They see us as children, insignificant and powerless. He brought up a star map. Red marks dotted human space. New Seoul was not the first attack. Over the past 10 years, 17 human outposts have been destroyed. Different species, different reasons, but always the same result. The council rules against us. They tell us we're too young to understand. They tell us to accept their justice. Soman leaned forward. How many dead total? 3 million civilians. 8,000 military personnel. The room fell silent. Yoonji broke it. They're testing us. Pushing to see what we'll accept. And we've shown them we'll accept anything, Dongyun added bitterly. Taejin stood. No more. I've been running a classified project for 15 years. We codenamed it Operation Nemesis. I started it because I feared this day would come. I hoped I was wrong. I hoped the galaxy would welcome us as equals. But they haven't, they won't, not unless we force them to. He pulled up new files. Designs for weapons, schematics for ships, research data that made everyone in the room lean closer. For 15 years we've been preparing for war, Taejin said. We shared our technology with the council, played by their rules, acted like grateful children. But in secret, we've been building something else. Something they've never seen. Something they won't expect. Ji-hoon studied the data. This is incredible. How did we keep this hidden? Very carefully. Automated factories in the Kuiper Belt. Research stations disguised as mining operations. Money hidden in black budgets. Only a few hundred people know the full scope. Yoonji looked at weapon specifications that made her eyes go wide. These designs violate every galactic treaty. We never signed those treaties, Taejin reminded her. They offered them to us as guidelines for young species. We smiled and nodded, and then we ignored them. Soman asked the crucial question, are we really going to do this? Start a war with the most powerful military forces in the galaxy? Taejin looked at each of them. They already started the war. They killed 3 million of our people and laughed about it. Now we're going to show them what happens when you push humanity too far. We're going to make them terrified to ever attack us again. He activated the final display. Ships appeared on the screen. Dozens of them. Sleek, deadly, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Ghost Fleet is ready, Taejin said. Operation Nemesis begins now. Dr. Yuna Shin stood in front of the largest screen in the Titan research facility. Behind her, Fleet Admiral Taejin Lee and his command staff watched as she prepared to reveal 15 years of secret work. Her hands moved across the holographic controls, bringing up files that could change everything. The Galactic Council gave us basic technology when we joined, Yuna began. Faster than light travel, energy shields, plasma weapons. They called it a gift, but they held back the important things. Advanced metallurgy, quantum physics, weapons that could really hurt someone. She smiled, but it was not a happy smile. They thought we would just use what they gave us. They thought we were like children who only play with the toys adults provide. They were wrong. The first image appeared. A ship unlike anything the Council had ever built. It was dark, angular, built for function instead of beauty. No smooth curves or bright colors, just brutal efficiency. This is the UHNS Incheon, Yuna said. The flagship of our Ghost Fleet. We have 78 ships like this, all hidden in the Kuiper Belt. The Council's sensors cannot detect them. We developed stealth technology that bends sensor waves around the ship. To their instruments, our ships don't exist. Admiral Dong Yun leaned forward. How close can we get before they see us? We tested it last year. We flew a prototype within 1 kilometer of a Velcrin patrol ship. They never knew we were there. The implications made everyone in the room smile. General Soman Han asked, what about weapons? Yuna changed the display. The Council banned certain weapons as too dangerous. Singularity weapons, for example. They manipulate micro-black holes. The Council said they were unstable and could destroy entire planets by accident. And, Soman prompted, we made them stable. Each Ghost Fleet ship carries 20 Singularity torpedoes. They bypass shields completely. The black hole forms inside the target ship and tears it apart from within. Total destruction in under a minute. Director Yoonji Kwon whistled. What else? The swarm protocol. Yuna brought up video footage. Millions of small objects, each no bigger than a human fist, moved through space like a cloud. They descended on a test ship, covering every surface. Within minutes, the ship was gone, reduced to its basic components. Only the skeleton frame remained. Autonomous combat drones, Yuna explained. Each one has cutting tools, sensors, and a simple AI. They work together like insects, stripping enemy ships down to nothing. We can deploy 10 million drones from a single carrier ship, Taejin asked. Can the drones be stopped? Energy weapons work, but you would need to hit millions of small, fast-moving targets. Possible, but difficult. By the time you destroy half of them, the other half has already done their job. The final revelation made everyone in the room go quiet. Quantum entanglement communication, Yuna said. Instant communication across any distance. No delay, no light speed limitation. Every human ship can coordinate in real time, no matter how far apart they are. The council said that was impossible. Jihoon Seo said. The council was wrong. Yuna turned off the display. For 15 years, while we smiled and thanked them for their basic technology, we've been developing our own. We've made weapons they cannot defend against. We've built ships they cannot see. We've created a fleet that can destroy their strongest forces. Taejin stood and addressed the room. The Ghost Fleet is ready. Now we need crews willing to fly them into enemy territory. This will not be safe. Many may not come back, but we need volunteers. Colonel Jihoon Seo took over. I'm leading recruitment. We need pilots, engineers, Marines, medical staff. Everyone who joins will know the risks. We're going deep into Velcrin space to hurt them where they live. The volunteers came in waves, people who lost families at New Seoul, survivors from other destroyed colonies, soldiers who were tired of watching humanity be pushed around, young people who wanted to prove that humans were not weak, old veterans who remembered when Earth was nearly destroyed and swore it would never happen again. Lieutenant Bora Nam was one of the first to volunteer. She was only 24 years old, the youngest pilot in the human fleet. Her parents, her brother, her grandparents, all of them died at New Seoul. She had been off-world on training when the attack happened. Now she wanted revenge. Jihoon interviewed her personally. You understand this is likely a one-way trip? I understand, Bora said. Her voice was steady. My family is gone. If I die making the Velcrin pay, that's fine with me. Chief Engineer Woojin Park designed the propulsion system for the Ghost Fleet. He knew every centimeter of those ships. When Jihoon asked if he would fly with them, Woojin did not hesitate. Someone needs to keep the engines running. Might as well be me. Marine Commander Hyeon Kang brought 50 of his best soldiers. They specialized in boarding actions and close combat. If you're going into Velcrin space, you might need boots on the ground, he told Jihoon. My team is ready. Dr. Soyoung Lee was a combat medic and xenobiology expert. She had studied alien anatomy for years. I can keep our people alive, she said. And I know how to hurt the enemy if needed. Tactical Officer Min Jae Choi was a refugee from humanity's first destroyed colony 15 years ago. He was just a child then, but he remembered the Velcrin ships in the sky, the bombs falling, running through burning streets holding his mother's hand. I've waited 15 years for this, he said. Jihoon assembled them in a briefing room. Hundreds of volunteers, all willing to risk everything. He looked at their faces and saw determination, anger, grief, and hope all mixed together. The galaxy thinks we're weak, Jihoon said. They think because we're a young species, we'll just accept whatever they do to us. They killed 3 million of our people and the council told us to forget about it, to move on, to accept their justice. He paused, letting his words sink in. We're going to teach them something important. Humans remember. We remember every wrong done to us. We remember every life taken, and we repay our debts with interest. The volunteers stood and cheered. The sound echoed through the facility. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, beyond Neptune's orbit, the Ghost Fleet waited among the ice and rock. Automated factories had built these ships over 15 years, piece by piece, in absolute secrecy. They had been hidden among thousands of asteroids, disguised as mining equipment and research stations. Captain Min-ho Kim toured the flagship with Admiral Taejin Lee. The UHNS Incheon was massive, bristling with weapons that violated every treaty the Council cherished. Its hull was made of adaptive metamaterials that could harden or flex as needed. Its reactors produced more power than any galactic ship. "She's beautiful," Minho said, running his hand along the dark metal. "She's a weapon," Tajin corrected, "built for one purpose, to make our enemies regret what they've done." Minho looked at the Admiral. "The Council will call this an act of war." "They declared war when they killed our people and laughed about it," Tajin replied. "We're just making sure they understand the consequences of their decision." The crews boarded their ships. Engineers checked systems. Pilots ran through pre-flight sequences. Marines loaded their weapons. Medical bays were stocked and ready. In the command center of the Incheon, Minho sat in the captain's chair. Around him, his bridge crew prepared for departure. Lieutenant Boranam sat at the helm. Tactical Officer Min-jae Choi monitored weapon systems. Chief Engineer Woojin Park reported all engines at full power. "Fleet status?" Minho asked. "All 78 ships report ready," the communications officer replied. Minho took a deep breath. This was it, the moment that would change everything. Humanity had been pushed and tested and found wanting. Now they would push back. "All ships," Minho said into the fleet-wide channel. "This is Captain Kim. Today we show the galaxy who we really are. Today we make them understand that humanity will not be victims. For New Sol, for every colony we've lost, for every person they killed." 78 ships powered up their engines. The darkness of space lit up with blue fire. The Ghost Fleet began to move, invisible to every sensor in the galaxy, heading toward Velcrin space with vengeance in their hearts. Operation Nemesis had begun. The Ghost Fleet emerged from quantum slip space at the edge of the Velcrin star system. 78 ships materialized in the darkness, invisible to every sensor that might have detected them. The stealth technology worked perfectly. To the Velcrin defense network, humanity's revenge fleet simply did not exist. Captain Minho Kim stood on the bridge of the Incheon, watching the tactical display. Velcrin Prime glowed in the distance, a blue-green planet protected by the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. 12 massive orbital fortresses surrounded it like a crown of steel. Patrol ships moved in regular patterns. Defense satellites covered every approach vector. "They have no idea we're here," Tactical Officer Min-jae Choi said, studying his screens. "We're passing right through their sensor net." It took 10 days to reach the inner system. 10 days of careful navigation, moving slowly to avoid creating detectable gravitational anomalies. 10 days of watching Velcrin ships pass within kilometers, so close that the human crews could see the aliens through viewports. Lieutenant Boranam piloted a fighter escort alongside the Incheon. She watched a Velcrin patrol cruiser drift past, near enough to touch. The aliens inside had no idea that death floated just meters away. She whispered to herself, "For New Sol." It became her mantra, repeated every time she saw an enemy ship. The phrase spread through the fleet. Crews whispered it during their watches. Engineers painted it on bulkheads. Marines carved it into their weapons. For New Sol, for the 2 million dead, for every human life the galaxy thought meant nothing. On the 10th day, the Ghost Fleet reached attack range of the orbital fortresses. These were not ordinary defense stations. Each fortress was 5 kilometers long, armed with weapons that could destroy entire battle fleets. They had shields that could withstand sustained bombardment for hours. The Velcrin Empire considered them impregnable. In 300 years, no enemy had ever successfully attacked one. Minho called a fleet-wide conference. The other ship captains appeared as holograms on his bridge. "This is it," he said. "We split into 12 groups. Each group targets one fortress. The attack must be simultaneous. If even one fortress has time to raise full shields and send a warning, this becomes much harder." The captains nodded. They had rehearsed this attack 100 times in simulation. Now it was real. "Weapons free on my mark," Minho continued. "Singularity torpedoes only for the first strike. We need total destruction, fast and clean." Questions? There were none. The captains knew their jobs. The Ghost Fleet divided, each group moving into position around its designated target. The fortresses continued their normal operations, unaware that invisible death surrounded them. Inside those massive structures, thousands of Velcrin soldiers went about their duties. Some ate meals. Some slept. Some monitored sensors that showed nothing unusual. "All groups report in position," Min-jae said. Minho watched the countdown timer. 30 seconds. He thought about New Sol Colony, about the playground with melted swings, about the child's toy half buried in the ruins. About 2 million people who died for no reason except that the galaxy thought humanity was weak. 15 seconds. Minjay counted. 10-5, all ships, Minho said. Drop stealth. Fire. 78 ships became visible simultaneously. Before the Velcrin sensors could even process what they were seeing, the Singularity torpedoes launched. 160 black orbs streaked through space, each one containing a carefully controlled micro-black hole. The torpedoes passed through the fortress shields as if they were not there. Physical barriers meant nothing to gravitational weapons. The torpedoes penetrated deep into each fortress, reaching the reactor cores at their centers. Then they activated. 12 points of infinite gravity formed simultaneously. The fortress shields collapsed inward. The massive structures imploded, pulled into their own centers by irresistible force. Metal twisted and screamed. Reactor cores went critical. In 60 seconds, 12 fortresses that had protected Velcrin Prime for 3 centuries were reduced to compressed balls of super-dense matter. The Velcrin defense fleet scrambled. Alarms screamed across military channels. Commanders shouted orders. Warships that had been on routine patrol suddenly found themselves facing an enemy fleet that had appeared from nowhere and just destroyed their most powerful defenses. Warprints. Draxus stood in the planetary command center, staring at the tactical displays in disbelief. Those fortresses were impossible to destroy. Everyone knew that. They had shields, armor, redundant systems, and yet they were simply gone. Just gone. Identify the enemy, he roared. Unknown ship design, a technician replied, his voice shaking. Weapon signature unknown. How they penetrated our sensor net is unknown. Everything about them is unknown. Launch all fighters, Draxus ordered. All ships converge on the enemy fleet. Destroy them, but the Ghost fleet did not press the attack. Instead, they held position, weapons ready but not firing. 300 Velcrin ships formed up, ready to charge and avenge their destroyed fortresses. Then Captain Minho Kim opened a quantum communication channel. The signal bypassed every security protocol the Galactic Council possessed. It appeared simultaneously on every council member's display, in every council chamber, on every official screen across 43 different species' homeworlds. The image showed Minho standing on the bridge of the Inchin. Behind him, visible through the viewports, floated the compressed remains of the Velcrin fortresses. His uniform was crisp. His face was calm. His eyes held no mercy. Members of the Galactic Council, he said. His voice was steady, controlled, more frightening than any shout. I am Captain Minho Kim of the United Human Nations ship Inchan. 3 weeks ago, 2 million of my people died at New Sol Colony. We brought evidence to your council. We asked for justice, he paused, letting his words register. You told us the attack was justified. You told us we were too young to understand galactic law. You dismissed our complaint and told us to accept your decision. Minho gestured to the destruction behind him. Let me educate you about humanity. What you see behind me is the result of just 12 ships. We have 66 more. We have weapons your species have never encountered. We have technology you declared impossible, and we have very long memories. The image changed to footage from New Sol, not the clean, edited version that diplomats had shown before. Raw footage. Bodies in the streets. Children crying. Buildings collapsing on families. The burning, the dying, the end of 2 million lives. You wanted us to accept that our lives mean nothing, Minho said, his voice hard as steel. That we are too weak, too young, too insignificant to matter. We reject your verdict. The image returned to Minho. This is not a negotiation. This is a warning. The Velcrin Empire will answer for what they did. And every council member who supported their action, who dismissed our plea, who looked at our dead and felt nothing, you will learn what it means to make an enemy of humanity. He leaned closer to the camera. We did not want this. You forced this on us. Remember that when you see what comes next. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy in 43 different star systems, council members stared at blank screens. Some were angry. Some were frightened. But all of them understood that something had changed forever. In the Velcrin command center, War Prince Draxus gripped his console until his claws left marks in the metal. That smug smile he had worn in the council chambers was gone. His voice shook with rage and fear. All ships attack. Destroy those humans. The Velcrin fleet charged forward, but the Ghost fleet was already moving, splitting into smaller groups, using their superior coordination and quantum communication to outmaneuver the enemy. The Velkrin had more ships, but the humans had better technology and perfect coordination. More importantly, the humans had rage. Focused, controlled, devastating rage. The battle for Velkrin Prime had begun, and the galaxy watched in terror as they realized that humanity, the species they thought was weak, had teeth. Sharp teeth. High Arbiter Thexlin called an emergency session of the Galactic Council within an hour of Minho's transmission. The chamber filled quickly, representatives arriving in various states of shock and outrage. Some species sent their military commanders instead of their usual diplomats. Everyone wanted answers. The humans have violated every protocol, Thexlin began, his crystalline form pulsing with agitation. They have attacked a member species without council authorization. This is an act of war against the entire galactic community. Ambassador Jiwan Choi appeared in the center of the chamber, not as a hologram awaiting permission to speak, but as a direct transmission that the council's security systems could not block. She stood there, projected in light as solid and real as if she were physically present. The chamber fell silent. The fact that humanity could bypass their security so easily terrified them more than they wanted to admit. "You speak of protocols," Jiwan said. Her voice echoed in the vast space. "You speak of violations. Let me remind you what truly happened. The Velkrin Empire murdered 2 million civilians. We brought evidence. We followed your protocols. We asked for justice." She looked at each council member in turn. "You dismissed us. You mocked our pain. You told us we were too young to understand. You gave us no justice, no compensation, no apology. You gave us nothing but contempt." Thexlin tried to interrupt, but Jiwan continued. "Now you want to talk about protocols? About rules? You showed us your rules mean nothing when applied to humans, so we made our own rules." The Velkrin representative, a military commander named Vortak, who replaced the disgraced Draxus, stood up. "The humans must withdraw immediately or face the combined might of the Council. You are one species against 43. You cannot win this war," Jiwan smiled. It was not a warm smile. "Try." The transmission ended. The Council erupted in arguments. Some species demanded immediate military action against humanity. Others urged caution. A few very quietly began to recalculate their positions. The Ghost Fleet did not withdraw. Instead, they began hunting Velkrin military assets throughout the sector. The pattern was terrifying in its efficiency. A Velkrin patrol ship would be on routine duty one moment, then simply disappear the next. No distress call. No warning, just gone. The few survivors who made it to escape pods told the same story. Ships appeared from nowhere, invisible until they opened fire. Weapons that bypassed shields and tore ships apart from the inside. And then the swarm. One survivor, a Velkrin officer named Kreth, was picked up by a civilian freighter. His scales had turned pale with fear. He babbled his story to anyone who would listen. They released millions of them. Little machines, each one smaller than my hand. They covered the hull like insects. We tried to shoot them, but there were too many. They cut through the armor. They got inside. We could hear them in the walls, cutting, dismantling. We abandoned ship. When I looked back, our cruiser was just a skeleton floating in space. The video spread across the galactic network. Species that had never worried about humanity suddenly began to worry very much. Admiral Dong-Hyun. Yoon monitored galactic communications from Earth. He reported to Fleet Admiral Taejin Lee with barely contained satisfaction. "The Council is fracturing. 8 species have privately contacted us condemning the Velkrin's initial attack. They want to distance themselves from this situation." "Which species?" Taejin asked. "The Matharians, the Quellan Collective, the Tarn Republic, and 5 others. None of them want to be on humanity's target list." Taejin studied the political map. "They're calculating. They see what we did to the Velkrin and they're scared. Should we accept their overtures? Not yet. Fear is good. Let them sweat a while longer." On Velkrin Prime, War Prince Draxus was no longer smiling. He had been demoted and humiliated, but the military had brought him back as an advisor because he understood humans better than anyone. He stood in the command center, watching the reports come in. 17 ships destroyed in 2 days, 30 more damaged, 3 supply depots reduced to scrap. "We need to strike back," Commander Vortak said. "We need to hit their homeworld." Draxus shook his head. "That's what they want. They're goading us into overreacting. Our people demand revenge. The humans destroyed our orbital fortresses. They're hunting our ships like prey. We cannot look weak." "We already look weak," Draxus said bitterly. They made us look weak. And if we attack Earth with everything we have, we'll either lose, which makes us look even weaker, or we'll win but prove to every other species that humanity was right to fear us. Vortak's eyes narrowed. You're saying we do nothing? I'm saying we're already in a trap and I don't know how to get out. But the political pressure was too great. The Velcrin people were terrified and angry. They demanded action. The Velcrin Senate voted for war. 300 warships, the largest military fleet assembled in over a century, prepared to jump to human space. Their mission was simple: destroy Earth and every human colony simultaneously. Eliminate humanity as a species before they could become a bigger threat. The Galactic Council held an emergency vote on whether to stop the Velcrin assault. The vote failed. Some species abstained. Some actively supported the Velcrin action. Many simply did nothing, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. Ambassador Jiwan Choi watched the vote from Earth. She expected this outcome, but it still hurt. The galaxy was willing to let an entire species be exterminated, rather than admit they had been wrong. On Earth, Director Yoonji Kwon tracked the approaching Velcrin fleet from the Defense Command Center. Her screen showed 300 red dots moving toward human space at maximum speed. They would arrive in 6 hours. Fleet Admiral Taejin Lee entered the center. Should we recall the Ghost Fleet to defend Earth? Yoonji smiled. No, they're exactly where they need to be. The Velcrin fleet is walking into a trap. Taejin raised an eyebrow. You sound confident. I am. Do you remember what I said about Operation Nemesis being 15 years in the making? The Ghost Fleet was Phase 1. Now comes Phase 2. She pulled up new displays. The Velcrin think Earth is defended by conventional forces. A few dozen ships, some orbital platforms, maybe a planetary shield. They think they'll overwhelm us with numbers. And? Taejin prompted. And we've been building more than just the Ghost Fleet. Yoonji's smile grew wider. The asteroid belt has been very productive. So has the moon. General Soman Han joined them, reviewing the defensive positions. The Velcrin are going to be very surprised. That's the idea, Yoonji said. They hit us first. We hit them back. Now they're coming to finish us. Let's show them why that's a mistake. Across human space, hidden defense systems began activating. Weapons platforms disguised as asteroids for decades powered up. On the moon's far side, construction crews made final preparations for something the Velcrin had never seen before. In Earth orbit, seemingly ordinary satellites reconfigured themselves into combat mode. Marine Commander Hien Kang briefed his forces. The Velcrin are coming. They think this will be easy. Let's teach them the most important lesson about humanity. We are never easy. Dr. Seo-Young Lee prepared the medical bays. Casualties are expected, she told her staff. We save everyone we can. Human and enemy both. We're not monsters even if they think we are. 6 hours later, the Velcrin fleet emerged from slipspace at the edge of the Sol system. 300 warships, weapons charged, shields up, ready to deliver humanity's extinction. They expected to find a desperate, outmatched defense. They expected humans begging for mercy. They expected victory. What they found instead was a nightmare. The asteroid belt erupted with weapons fire. Hidden platforms revealed themselves and opened up with devastating barrages. The Velcrin shields held, but barely, and from Earth's moon something new and terrible began to charge. A weapon built into the lunar surface itself, powered by the moon's own core. The Velcrin fleet suddenly realized they had made a very serious mistake. War Prince Draxus watched the battle unfold from Velcrin Prime. His prediction had been correct. They had walked into a trap. He closed his eyes knowing what came next. The humans were going to hurt them. Badly. The Velcrin fleet commander was a veteran named Kelrath who had fought in 23 battles over a 40-year career. He had never lost. He had never retreated. He had earned 17 medals for valor and tactical brilliance. But as he watched, his fleet enter the Sol system, a cold feeling settled in his gut. The asteroid belt should have been empty space with a few mining stations. Instead, it was a death trap. Hundreds of weapons platforms revealed themselves, each one targeting multiple ships. The barrage was perfectly coordinated, hitting the Velcrin formation from every angle. Kelrath's shields held, but the smaller ships were not as fortunate. 30 escorts went down in the first minute. Their shields collapsed under the sustained fire. Hull breaches, reactor failures, ships breaking apart under the assault. Return fire, Kelrath ordered. Destroy those platforms. The Velcrin fleet unleashed its own weapons, plasma cannons, missile swarms, particle beams. The asteroid belt lit up with explosions. But for every human platform destroyed, 2 more seemed to appear. The asteroids themselves were hiding places for weapons. The Velcrin were shooting at rocks that shot back. Then something worse happened. From Earth's moon, a massive energy spike registered on all sensors. Kelrath watched his tactical display with growing dread. The energy signature was enormous, building to levels that should not be possible. "What is that?" his weapons officer asked. "I don't know," Kelrath admitted, "but I think we're about to find out." The Ragnarok cannon fired. A beam of concentrated antimatter launched from the lunar surface, crossing the distance to the Velcrin fleet in seconds. It struck the lead dreadnought, a ship named Victory's Pride, the most powerful vessel in the Velcrin Navy. Victory's Pride ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply erased from reality. Matter and antimatter met and annihilated each other, releasing energy that lit up the solar system brighter than the sun for 3 seconds. The entire Velcrin fleet hesitated. They had lost ships before, but they had never seen a ship simply vanish like that. The weapon that did it was still charging for another shot. Kelrath made a decision. All ships, evasive action, scatter formation. Do not give them a concentrated target. The fleet broke apart, ships moving in different directions. It was the right tactical choice, but it made them vulnerable in other ways. Marine Commander Yan Kang and his troops materialized directly inside a Velcrin cruiser. The experimental teleportation technology worked exactly as designed, bypassing shields and armor entirely. 50 human Marines appeared in the enemy ship's main corridor. The Velcrin soldiers barely had time to react. The humans moved with brutal efficiency, weapons firing with precision. Hyan led from the front, his rifle taking down targets with practiced ease. Room by room, deck by deck, his team cleared the ship. This same scene played out across 20 different Velcrin vessels. Human Marines appeared from nowhere, seizing engineering sections and bridges. The close combat was savage. Some Velcrin fought bravely, others surrendered quickly. Within an hour, 20 ships were under human control, their crews either captured or fled to escape pods. But the real terror came from something else entirely. Around Earth, the atmosphere itself seemed to shimmer. The quantum shield activated, surrounding the entire planet in a protective barrier. The Velcrin fleet pounded against it with every weapon they had. Nothing penetrated. The shield held firm. Commander Kelrath watched his fleet's best efforts fail completely. They had hit Earth with enough firepower to crack a continent. The shield did not even flicker. His communication officer spoke urgently. "Sir, incoming message from Velcrin Prime. It's War Prince Draxus." Draxus appeared on screen. His face was grim. "Kelrath, you need to withdraw now." "We're engaged with the enemy," Kelrath protested. "We can still win this." "No, you can't. Listen to me. The humans planned this. Everything. They did it to make us react exactly this way. They wanted us to send our fleet to Earth. It's a trap. We're already fighting our way through it." "You're not," Draxus said. "You're losing. Check your casualty count. Check how many ships still have full capability. Check how much ammunition you've expended. The humans have barely started fighting and you're already crippled." Kelrath checked his displays. Draxus was right. 70 ships destroyed or disabled. Ammunition reserves down to 60%. And the humans were just getting started. The lunar weapon was charging again. More Marine teams were teleporting into ships. The asteroid platforms kept firing. "They've been preparing for this fight for 15 years. Draxus continued. "We walked into their home system thinking we would overwhelm them with numbers, but they turned their entire solar system into a fortress. Every planet, every moon, every asteroid is a weapon." A new report came in. Jupiter's moons were moving. Not orbiting naturally, but moving with purpose. Each one revealed weapons platforms hidden beneath their surfaces. Saturn's rings contained thousands of automated defense drones, all activating simultaneously. The humans had weaponized their entire star system. Every piece of it was a trap waiting to be sprung. Kelrath's voice was hoarse. How do we win? We don't, Draxus said. We surrender before they kill us all. The words were bitter, but they were true. Kelrath sent the signal. The Velcrin fleet ceased fire and broadcast surrender codes across all frequencies. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Taejin Lee received the surrender. He looked at General Somin Han and Director Yoonji Kwan. Should we accept? We've made our point, Somin said. We destroyed their orbital fortresses, hunted their fleet, and crushed their invasion. The galaxy understands we're not helpless. Taejin nodded. Transmit ceasefire orders. Capture their crews, but treat them well. We're not monsters. Ambassador Jiwon Choi prepared for the most important negotiation of her life. The Velcrin Empire was broken. Their military was defeated. But humanity did not negotiate with them. Instead, humanity called the entire Galactic Council to account. The council chamber filled once again. This time, Ambassador Jiwon Choi stood in the center, not as a supplicant, but as a conqueror. Behind, her holographic images showed the destroyed Velcrin fleet, the captured ships, the broken fortresses. Fleet Admiral Taejin Lee and Captain Minho Kim appeared beside her, representing human military might. Members of the council, Jiwon began. When we came to you asking for justice, you dismissed us. You told us we were too young to understand galactic law. You permitted the murder of 2 million humans without consequence. She looked at each representative. Now you understand what humanity is capable of. Now you fear us. Good. That fear will make you listen. The human demands were clear and non-negotiable. Full reparations from the Velcrin Empire for every life lost. Immediate council membership with full voting rights. Strict protocols for military action that required council consensus. Full access to all galactic technology and trade. And a formal apology from the Velcrin, broadcast across every channel in known space. High Arbiter Thexlan started to speak, but Jiwon cut him off. These are not requests. These are terms. You can accept them, and we can build a real peace. Or you can refuse, and we will demonstrate what the Ghost Fleet can do to every homeworld that voted against us at New Sol. We have the coordinates, we have the firepower, and we have nothing left to lose. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Species that had dominated the galaxy for millennia suddenly understood that they were no longer at the top. A new power had risen, forged in blood and fire, tempered by rage and grief. The vote was nearly unanimous. Only 3 species abstained. None dared vote against humanity. The age of casual cruelty toward younger species died not with wisdom or enlightenment, but with terror. On Earth, the celebrations were quiet. 2 million people were still dead. Victory tasted like ash in the mouth. Captain Minho Kim stood at the New Sol Memorial, placing flowers among millions of others. Lieutenant Bora Nam stood beside him, tears streaming down her face. Did we do the right thing? She asked. Minho did not answer immediately. He looked at the names carved in stone, each one representing a life stolen. We did the necessary thing, he finally said. The galaxy forced us to become this. We wanted peace. They gave us war. We survived it. That has to be enough. Fleet. Admiral Taejin Lee addressed humanity in a global broadcast. We did not want to become what we became. We wanted only to live in peace. The galaxy denied us that choice. So we showed them that humanity, when pushed, pushes back harder than anyone imagined. We are now a galactic power. Not because we sought it, but because we refused to die quietly. 10 years later, the galaxy had changed. The Galactic Council enforced real justice now, not the arbitrary decisions of powerful species. Younger civilizations had rights that were protected. Humanity's presence had forced reforms that made the galaxy safer for everyone. Ambassador Jiwon Choi, now Council Secretary General, oversaw a session where a young species presented a grievance against a more powerful neighbor. The council listened carefully. Justice was served. The young species received protection and compensation. After the session, a reporter asked Jiwon if she regretted humanity's violent introduction to galactic power. She thought about New Seoul, about the war, about all the lives lost on both sides. "I regret that it was necessary," she said. "I regret that the galaxy forced us to prove our worth through violence."